The question on everybody's mind is this an AI bubble? It is. Tomorrow, Google reports their earnings, and we will learn a lot more about where we are inside this AI bubble. At the end of this video, you are going to have a plan, a step by step plan of what to track, what to look for in the earnings, and how we're going to update it in our AI bubble. All right, let me get to my screen. Okay. Also, go ahead and hit that like button while I'm doing this. You can do that. You can do it. It's easy. Doesn't hurt. Makes you feel good. We're all doing it. Okay. AI earnings season tracker. Here's where we are, man. We have 19 companies we're tracking during this earnings season. Three of them have reported. We got TSMC, Taiwan Semi. We have Danaher. And then we had IBM kind of report. They guided early, but big one tomorrow. Big one tomorrow is Google, a hyperscaler. They got TPUs, which is a competitor to GPUs, and they even announced a new version of of those chips yesterday before earnings. Weird. And then let's see where we are in this thesis. Okay, so pause. Something big happened this weekend. I know it's got to be mentioned. Kimi K3 dropped, and it is just as powerful as theoretically the OpenAI and Anthropic models that are out there, but it's open source and it's Chinese. And that's scaring a lot of people because they are tying the AI trade to, oh, Anthropic, OpenAI. They're the ones that's the AI thing. And if they're having a problem, well, then everybody else is going to have, it's going to be bad. And oh no, the bubble, blah, 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 blah. Except as we've been talking about, and you can check in the other videos and you see what we're talking about there. If I am giving away my stuff to OpenAI, to Anthropic, giving my research, my IP, my super secure secrets of mastering the universe in my organization, they're just sucking them up, and one by one, they're just releasing a new skill, they're releasing a new product, and they're going to take you out. And so a lot of big companies are moving to self-hosting on-prem their own models. We had a couple of different releases last week. We did get the Kimi K3. Everybody's kind of, it's kind of shook everybody up. I think it's great. I don't think that's, I don't think it's going to be a bad thing. The administration might change things up a little bit. Who knows about that? We can all kind of agree that, stuff is a little surprising what comes down. So let's see where we are. Compute demand is strengthening while model scarcity is weakening. This is exactly what Kimi K3 came out to show everybody. They had frontier capability at, it's expensive in the sense that you have to run a really powerful infrastructure to run the K3 model. And if you were to, like, I had access to it through the API a little bit, but it was too much demand, too bogged down. I had to turn it off and go back to other models, but it was cool. It worked pretty good. I didn't get lectured to. I could just flat out use the AI tools to, get questions answered instead of getting lectured to about biology secrets or something like, oh, I was curious what my free testosterone level and my APOB, whatever, like two different blood metrics, like how how they interact or something like that. You try to do that in Fable, and it'll just drop you down to Opus 4.8. You're like, oh, I am curious about an atom. I don't know, something, what's the difference between a molecule and an atom? Something like that. And they'll probably just drop you back down. But you can go lightning fast on Kimi K3. Super cool. TSMC, they came out. They're the first one to really report. IBM kind of foreshadowed, but Taiwan Semi came out and everything's strong. They got hit. It's that environment. IBM kind of warned. Kimi K3 came out. Alphabet. Now, this is the most important one right now because it covers if we're worried about the AI, the frontier models being the thing that's going to crush the market. Well, that happened. We've already seen that somebody can come out and compete with them. That already happened. So if that's the case, and that's what we're judging our where we're at in the bubble on, well, the bubble just popped. But no, no, because our thesis is about the build out, right? And we're under capacity. We don't have the energy creation to provide all of that. We don't have the infrastructure. We've got lead times way, way out there on the build. Um, okay, so let's just look at where we are on our model impact. Kimi K3 pushes frontier capability into a larger open model while creating more infrastructure demand. That's what I'm talking about. If it's just these models that we're worried about, and they run the show, well, then yeah, that's great. Except Kimi K3 just showed up and said, "Hey, guess what? I'm new here, and where's the party at, guys?" Um, Google, Nvidia, everybody's going to be like, "Well, the party, yeah, about that. Can't sell to China." Going to be a just think about this. There's that force is just kind of off the top of your head. If that means that theoretically the Chinese models are not using, they don't need the Vera Rubins, they don't need Blackwells, the big beefy NVIDIA chips to run because we know that with export control, they don't have access to those. Most somewhat like there's definitely some access other ways, but they've done this. They've delivered, let's say, a Fable, a GPT 5.6 without those things, without the Vera Rubin, without the Blackwell, with like H100s or something, just like lower quality chips and just better engineering, better coding, better work on the current, like all sorts of things that they've done. This is one of my big thesis is that everybody's going to continue to use the lazy version and throw the beefiest GPU at the problem. The lazy version, I mean, is that the GPU can just do it all, right? They can process it all. Whereas a TPU, for example, Google's tensor processing unit, which is something we'll talk about, it has to be very narrow. It has to be a certain, like, you got to know what you're doing for that to work. If you're using, let's say you used, a 3 or 4 year old GPU to deliver a Kimi K3, well, that means you need to know what you're doing. You need to be very good at it, which also means that the frontier labs here at OpenAI and Anthropic are likely being lazy. They're theoretically being lazy and taking advantage of the big beefy GPUs to handle the problems, and they're not doing super efficient uh, development R&D on their models. And so this kind of, luckily those two companies aren't public, and it's, I think it's a good thing that they're not public because, they could have had a 20, 30, 40, 50% crash on this Kimi K3 launch, and it wouldn't be, warranted, but that would scare the hell out of everybody since they're private, you just kind of guess. So that just means there's going to be more demand. So now you got more demand. This is going to be an interesting one. So if Kimi K3 can come out and do it with, 3, 4 year old uh, GPUs, how is that going to disrupt the the NVIDIA pipeline of everybody standing in line for the new, to buy Blackwells, to buy Vera Rubins, to buy the new chips? It does not look like that's going, who knows? Who knows? I guess. Because you still have to do amazing engineering within if you're going to use that other stuff. And who knows if we got that. Okay, Taiwan Semi. I don't think we need to really need to rehash this one. It was everything's the same. Basically, everything's the same. But what it does say is, this makes Google important because Google's going to confirm. It's going to confirm what's next. These are the things that we're going to keep in our mind. IBM comes out the 22nd, which is tomorrow as well. They've already pre-warned, so that one should be kind of a nothing burger. Maybe they'll surprise with some new information. Google comes out. That's the most important one. GE Vernova earnings. I think they come out tomorrow. It looks like Tesla pre-wire the Tesla earnings decision. It looks like we got a decent day tomorrow coming out. And so we have a little bit of live data that I just want to go over before we dig into Google real quick. ASML considers price increase for long NA EUV. TSMC unhappy. Great. Intel. I don't know. They just had some sort of layoff, I believe. Intel Xeon 6 leaps to 800 MTs memory now, but the real payoff waits for 8800. Okay. Build specialized agent workflows for your, okay, advertising. All right. So let's get to the plan to take a look at Google tomorrow. Demand looks real. The economics still have to prove themselves. TSMC confirmed that the physical build out is still accelerating. Kimi K3 suggested model scarcity is fading. Alphabet, which was supposed to drop, I think, was a week ago. They were supposed to drop their competitor to Fable and GPT 5.6 and whatever. They pulled it back. And there's a rumor that it's somewhere around the 27th, which is when Kimi K3 drops their own weight. So I don't know, man. So Alphabet now has to prove cheaper intelligence and massive infrastructure investment are becoming profitable demand. So Gemini, the way Apple is, or not Apple, Google, the way Google has been doing, they started out on this dead sprint in competition with frontier models. They came out and they were doing Gemini and OpenAI and Claude. They were just kind of it was this kind of circular battle, and it looks like Google stepped away from that game a month or two, a couple months ago, and really just started focusing on getting. And I think this is one of the best. I think this is one of the best moves for Google and Apple's similar in this case, where they're going to make their products better because of AI. Not the product isn't the magic AI. It's how the products that you currently use are using AI. So they upgraded Notebook LLM, which is a really cool product. Gemini is integrated throughout all the Google Gmail, Google Docs, like everything in there. It's very easy to get access to it in Google Cloud. Throw it right in. It just, obviously lives right in there. Doing pretty good. So what we know ahead of the call. So this is what we need to pay attention to. This is kind of like make sure that this doesn't change. Supply side, Q2 revenue reached up 40 billion with 6.67% gross. This is TSMC. We also know Kimi K3, the capacity and cost side moonshot released the 20. Okay. We know that the enterprise budget, IBM came out saying, hey, guess what? Clients are not paying for what we were, doing before infrastructure. Now they're looking for servers, so AI, GPUs, storage, memory, networking, that sort of stuff, which brings us to, so all these things are the three things that we already know, and I've mentioned a few times here. The monetization test. Can hyperscale AI usage grow fast enough to outrun falling prices and rising infrastructure costs? That's what Google's going to tell us tomorrow. The three tests to decide, okay? This is what we're focused on. The first is Google Cloud. What's the demand for Google Cloud? Is AI creating incremental, profitable cloud demand? I believe so. So we're going to pay attention to cloud revenue, operating income and margin on cloud, backlog, remaining performance obligations, AI workload growth, enterprise adoption, capacity constraint commentary. Okay, the green, like we got it. This is all good. Is cloud accelerates while operating margins remain durable. So they don't. It doesn't. They're providing cloud, they're meeting cloud demand, and it doesn't cost them anymore. Or Amber, it demands the same, but it costs more to provide it. Or, red light is both backlog, your growth, and or the backlog weakens while the spend remains high. So that's our first thing on cloud. So if we want to be in the green, obviously, so we want cloud accelerating and margins remaining the same. Next, CapEx and infrastructure. Is Google spending into real scarcity or spending to avoid falling behind? Big question, right? The big circular economy of all of this. So this is what we're going to be looking at. Updated capital expenditure guidance, TPU, server, and data center investment. They did just release, again, an updated version of their TPU, I think yesterday, which is super cool because when I'm looking at providing AI to customers, um, let's say let's say you have like this dashboard. Let's say I made this dashboard into something that you wanted, like, hey, I'm going to own this myself. I want to pay I want this. You get it. And then I have a little, AI guy on the side over there, and you can just ask questions about the whole AI trade and the whole everything we're doing. Um, I want to use a model router, and I want to use the cheap models to answer cheap questions. I want to use the fast models to answer questions. As a customer service, if I'm talking to, like, if I'm doing, Chris, this dashboard, I'm having problems with it. Let me go to my customer service. Hey, I'm having problems with it. If the customer service chatbot comes back instantly, that feels good. If it thinks the same distance that like Fable would think, take 2 minutes to think about my answer or the answer I'm going to give you, I don't want that. That's going to slow me down. That's going to take, and it's going to cost 100 times. So Google has made a big bet on fast, um, like flash AI, making it super cheap to include AI in things that you don't need the most intense frontier models. You don't need the most expensive, highest thinking stuff to answer simple questions. So they've made a big bet on that. And they continue to be one of the best providers of like the really fast, effective. If you're using my service here and I'm providing you free AI to use it, I'm not going to pay, $1 a question, $1 a question for you to ask, what time is it in Mumbai right now? Because I can answer that in like not even a penny, a millionth of a penny to use AI. And so that's what this sort of stuff is like. They have a good moat in that area, a good, not moat, but they got a good thing there. So what's green? CapEx rises because profitable demand still increases deployable capacity, meaning they're investing, but it's because the demand is so high and they're just meeting it. CapEx remains high while depreciation and deployment costs delay the payoff. So they're investing today to take advantage of longer term hopefullys. Or they cut spending and utilization or capacity begins to outrun demand. So they basically have got the red area is they went out and they bought all this, built these new TPUs, built all this new cloud expansion, build these new data centers, and they're kind of barely being used. So finally, we're to Gemini, which I've talked about a bunch here. Can usage growth outrun falling inference prices? Paid Gemini usage and enterprise adoption. Look, if you want to have the best in like if you want to take control on-prem or of your not on-prem, but in cloud, and use like the best you can get, but also have it be a US based, if that's important to your users and your clients or your stakeholders. um, Google's a great place to go for that. So paid Gemini usage and enterprise adoption. They want to make, like, if I'm thinking about, it's something like 10% of it's like 2% or something like that of the population uses AI tools right now. Maybe 10% was the number. There's a big report that came out yesterday, which means I think it's something like 2% actually pay $20 a month for ChatGPT. It's really small. But if you have, I mean, a lot of people have Google Docs, Google Drive, and pay a monthly fee for the storage that you get, and a number of those tools. Um, Gemini's kind of added to that now, and so an incremental increase in your monthly subscription to your corporate Gmail or whatever it is like that um, should move the needle. They have done a really good job, in my opinion, of search monetization. I really like, a lot of people are stuck on using ChatGPT or whatever for search or whatever. But Google's done a really good job of providing AI answers within the search, and then getting you to still be able to monetize that on ads. ChatGPT is trying to bring ads into ChatGPT. I just got an email offering to advertise in ChatGPT today. Um, but Google, it's been their cash cow, and I think that's something we want to pay attention to, right? Is search, has it been cannibalized, and are they losing search revenue? Inference efficiency improvements, agent application usage. So the thing about them is they've kind of gone broad across all. They already have the distribution across all. They don't need to go out and get a billion users. They've already got a billion users, so they don't need to go out and try to get a new billion like OpenAI and Anthropic does. They already have them, so they decided to just start giving it to their users. Green light on this one. AI adoption becomes measurable revenue without damaging search or cloud margins. That's it. That's it. We got to watch that one. That's going to be a big one. Usage expands quickly, but monetization remains behind infrastructure investment, right? So yes, they're using the heck out of Gemini. They're doing all sorts of stuff, but nobody's advertising anymore, or AI substitutes for existing revenue or falls. Okay. So what I'm going to be doing is, well, actually, I'm not. My AI is going to be doing this for me. My trading brain there. It's going to capture the evidence as it arrives. Now, if you don't have your agents, you don't have an agentic platform to do this for you, do this yourself. It's a great exercise. You can learn quite a bit about what you need to know, and you memorize it a lot better. I'm just going to use my Hermes to go out and do all this for me, and then summarize it as it's coming through. It'll just pop up. I'll get a text on my phone, or it'll just start popping up on my screen, and it'll give me the answers to these questions. What was the total revenue, margin, operation, CapEx? So this is what you want to pay attention to. Total revenue, Google Cloud revenue, bop, 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 bop. I want to pay attention to management language. What are they talking about here? Okay. When they talk about AI workload demand, and when they talk about TPUs, how are they doing it? Like, you and I can sit there and listen to it and maybe, get through the hums and haws, but the AI can just consume it and compare it to the last, 100 uh, earnings calls, and every other AI company, and every other, Google earnings call, and every other time that the CFO was asked this question, that, like all these other things, it'll pay attention to all that and have an answer. It can do all these things at the same time. Does Alphabet validate TSMC's upstream strength? So what we're trying to do is we're going to slot in a new piece. This isn't just about, betting on Google's earnings being, beating earnings or not, and the price changing. It's not about that. It's about this one piece is going to answer a number of other questions we have in our model. And it's going to move our model forward to answer the question, where are we at in the bubble? Are we, are we, if we are starting to get some reds or some ambers in our stuff up here, okay, that's one, that doesn't mean that the market crashes. That just means it's a data point that we have to go back and analyze. And okay, did Taiwan Semi kind of hint at that? We're going to find out with IBM. We're going to find out with Tesla. Um, so this is kind of the end, the possible verdicts. We got green bill out validated. This would basically mean the hyperscale build out is becoming profitable usage cycle, not only a capacity race. And if that starts to show up, right, that should give us some really good feedback on what to expect from the next earnings, uh, the next hyperscalers, the next companies who are doing things. And honestly, we can find out, if they're doing good and, like three or four of these companies all kind of have the same thing going. And then another company comes in and is like, we can be like, oh, was that execution by the company? Did they not do a good job? And all these other companies did? Or is it actually something we need to worry about? Okay. And it just shows where we can focus our attention on. The amber would be, the boom's intact, everything's moving. It's just payoff is delayed. Everything stays strong. CapEx rises. It's just margins start to weaken. Revenue's not doing so good, maybe a little bit. And then, the big one we're looking at, and who knows, if a year from now we're still looking at is the bubble, or when is the bubble popping around like that? It's probably going to be something different. But right now, this is what it is. So it's not a static thing. We're moving with it. Okay. So who gets paid if the build out keeps working, right? So this is thinking, okay, if we're in this, if we're in this environment and we got our answer, we're amber, we're green, whatever it is, who else is going to be somebody who we expect to, take advantage of that and reap the benefits of it and maybe put a bet on it ahead of time if we want, or something like that. Compute custom silicon, which is TPUs from Google, NVIDIA, GPUs in Taiwan Semi. We already know networking and memory is a big thing. Broadcom, Arista, high bandwidth memory companies. Power and cooling, we're already there. Our physical constraints, delaying. And then, these are things that not probably, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go and put my notes in here. Maybe if the next, that in the next 24 hours, I'm going to start adding my own notes to it just so I can kind of see, where it compares to everybody else. And then, we've got that. Like I said, we've got Tesla. Let's go back to see Tesla real quick and see where we need to put our focus on that one. If we need to open IBM, Tesla. Okay. We're tracking robotaxi, full self-driving, Optimus, validation, AI infrastructure spend, and economics. I don't know how important Tesla is going to be for this. I know SpaceX is way more involved in the AI side as far as hyperscaling and what they're doing. But as far as tomorrow when they report, their partner company, SpaceX, somewhat partner company, I don't know how to say it. They went and got a bunch of cash and they're doing a bunch of things. Things are not as you expect going into that. Cool. So we have our plan. We have our plan for tomorrow, for the earnings. We want to pay attention to spending. Spending can increase as long as revenues are good. We want to make sure that their margins are doing good as they're kind of pushing. We got to look like they bet that they don't need to focus so much on producing frontier models to to provide everybody, which could mean that they're keeping their own frontier models for themselves internally at Google, and then just providing, using it to build the tools to provide the customers. But internally at Google, they have the best model and they just flat out decide, look, our business is not to, update models every 2 weeks and, compete with frontier labs. Our business is to make money from infrastructure, from ads, from being relevant and being useful. And so maybe they just stepped away. And so we're going to kind of see, is this going to be an earnings season where we start to see internal use of AI models not being sold and offered to the public, but only internally? And I think this is like, I'm pretty sure OpenAI and I'm pretty sure Anthropic. Um, I think one of the reasons that Anthropic is was able to recruit so well, and the people that they recruited was because they basically said, look, you're going to have the best models. You're going to use our models and you get that to do your stuff. You're not going to get that anywhere else. And I think that across the Bay Area, basically, for all the AI researchers and people building, a big part of that is like, how good are the models that I'm going to be working with to further my research, further my product. And so that could be something we're seeing here. We're heading into it. So tomorrow, paying attention to Google, and then we are, off to that'll be what, 18, 19, 30, 16, 15 companies after Google still to report. We got a lot of information to learn, got a lot coming out. There's rumor that Opus 5 will be released here in the next few days. There's rumor that DeepSeek 4 will be, or I think it's DeepSeek 4, will be releasing imminently too. So now think about two frontier models, frontier level models coming out of China that are open weight, open source, and just really put that pressure on those companies. And it's happening in the earnings season. So we'll see. Love you all. Bye.